And I do maybe 3 or 4 heart songs reimagined. And the rest are new songs that I've written over the last year and a half, and some really amazing, surprising covers.
Like what?
Like She Talks to Angels, Peter Gabriel, The Who,
Wow.
just songs that have message and that are relevant for now.
What kind of messages? What do you like? When you're choosing these songs, what kind of songs are you looking for? Why do they resonate with you?
They resonate with me because the lyrics say something and are really well written, or they have a human message, like the Peter Gabriel song "Don't Give Up" is in the set, and that one is just a song about hope. At a time when not everybody's that hopeful. I mean, people are kind of overwhelmed, a lot of the time, and so that's the criteria for choosing songs for my solo set. Is they have to mean something, they have to say something. I just don't want to take up space, and I want to talk to people and make a connection with them and get them moving.
You do say that this isn't a heart show and that, the fans who come should know that. Are there any, how should I put this? Are there people that are just yelling out for the hits, or, how are they reacting to the fact that you're not just revisiting your old catalog?
Yeah, so far I haven't had anyone scream out Magic Man or anything. I mean, they know when they decide to come, they know that it isn't going to be that. Mm-hmm. And some extensive talk about that,
Yeah.
so people know. They go through a lot to come see a show, and they should know what they're getting. I think that it's good for people to come and have an experience that's somewhat a surprise, but at the same time, they have to know what they're in for.
Well, it's interesting because, nostalgia on the concert circuit is so huge right now. There's all these
Yeah.
artists that are doing, anniversary tours, just concentrating on like one album. Like, U2 this
Right.
week, and Desert Trip, the Classic West, Classic East, Fleetwood Mac, Eagles Festival. So it's kind of a risk for you. You could do that if you wanted to, easily.
Right.
So why is it so important for you to not do that and maybe take a little bit of a risk by doing something different?
Right. Well, last October, I just got off a Cheap Trick Journey Heart Tour.
I was there.
Right.
It was great.
Right.
It was great. It was
Yeah.
nostalgic, but, it was
Yeah.
great.
And so that's a thing that kind of brought me to the point of wanting to do something different. The light bulb went on over my head that now's the time to move into fresh territory. It's a crossroads time. And, I was feeling like I wanted to get into some smaller places and have a closer connection with people, too. And I was right. It feels really good.
Of the heart songs you do, the 3, did you say? Which ones do you do, and why did you choose those?
We do Alone, What About Love, and Barracuda, and a song called A Million Miles off of Fanatic. And I chose those because when you strip them down and take out the bombast, they're good songs. They're still really good songs with good melodies and nice words. And the way we do them now, they're just beautiful,
Well, Barracuda took on didn't it become like a political anthem in the last year?
Yeah, it did.
Well, first of all, first it was Sarah Barracuda, which was
Right,
kind of like
yeah.
not probably.
Which is
That was
like,
interesting.
gag me, But
Do you feel though that the song sort of took on in this era? It's a song. It's basically a song about sexism in the music industry, if I'm correct.
Yes, it is.
Which is a hot topic right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that song has stood the test of time as being a screed against something really sleazy and inauthentic, anti-equality. It's always been the same.
Do you think
Now it's just out in the open more. It's out in the sun now.
it's true? Like on Twitter and stuff now. true. Like on Twitter and stuff now, when, I mean, I don't know how much things have changed. I think a lot of things have stayed the same when it comes to sexism
I
in
agree.
general.
I agree.
But do you feel that in the music business in particular, it's improved a little bit, that there are more repercussions now than there were when you first started out?
I for sure think that it's the industry is more accepting of women now, different kinds of artists. Back when I started, you could either be a folk singer or you could be a disco diva, or you could be a secretary or maybe a disc jockey, but there was no room for anything alternative yet, and that there was also an unspoken, I guess, a written rule at radio that you could only play one woman per hour.
Are you like actually a rule?
Yeah. And so if Joan Baez had a hit out, for instance, you were just out of
You were
luck till
screwed,
next
yeah.
hour, or Donna Summer or something. So, yeah, things have changed an awful lot since then. But I think the basic things, some of the basic, most misogynist things, have not changed.
What do you mean?
In that nowadays, to be a superstar as a woman in rock, you have to be model beautiful, you have to be a dancer, a very good dancer, you
Yeah.
have to be able to sing, and if you can't really sing, they can fix that in the mix.
Yeah.
So the real talent aspect, I think, except for a few cases, is down. But if you're gorgeous, there it is again, you're acceptable.
I do feel there's sort of a body positivity movement going on. Maybe not so much
Yes,
in the
there
music
is.
industry, but on social media and in pop culture in general, that I think is a good thing.
Absolutely, and that's how acceptance starts, is by people just going, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to just let women be natural and have that be okay, But that is a salmon swimming upstream ideal
Yeah.
in pop culture in general and in the race.
I mean, when Lady Gaga, speaking of people who can dance and sing, but when she puts on this amazing performance at the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
and then people are talking about like an inch of fat on her stomach, and she's like size 4 or something.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
right, yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, I found that, that drove me so crazy I couldn't even really look at it. I was just like,
Yeah.
don't even, because she has so much more to offer
Right.
than her physical self.
Right.
I mean, she's got ideas, she has an incredible voice, can write songs, can play, can dance, believes in a non-bullying world, in a forgiving world, and puts her weight behind it.
How would you have dealt with in the earlier, or the biggest days of Heart, if social media and the trolls that come along with that had existed?
Oh, boy, yeah. That would have been freaky. Freaky and even weirder than it already was. It was pretty weird.
How so?
When somebody gets it in their mind to give you a bad review back in the 80s, they could do it. And except it was only in the local newspaper, which would get picked up by AP, and so it would be all over the place, They were just as on the hunt for a titillating takedown then as they are now.
Yeah. Speaking of the 80s, you mentioned that 2 of the songs you do on your tour are from that era, which was, it's interesting that you chose songs from that era, because I don't know if you remember when I interviewed you and your sister before, you talked about how you had some mixed feelings about that era.
Yeah.
Because it was your most commercially successful, but you didn't feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, like totally in creative control of what you were doing?
Not at all. No.
Okay.
We had hit another crossroads where, the music we came up with ourselves in the late 70s and super early 80s was no longer being accepted by our record company. They were just like, no, that's old stuff. This is what's being played on the radio. So we had to choose whether we wanted our career to peter out, or we could play some songs written by other people that were radio friendly. And we chose to be on the radio at that time, and be on MTV and all that, and take that ride and wear the clothes and the big hair and all that.
You had some great clothes.
Yeah.
You really did. I remember the blue in the hair. It was
Yeah.
a good look.
Yeah.
I mean, but at the same time, do you regret any of those decisions you made then?
Yeah, I think that I've never known another time where there's been a lower premium set on female naturalness. It was just so completely fake and phony, and that was the whole point of it, you know?
I mean, the guys were doing that too. Duran Duran were pretty
Right.
made up as well. It was maybe equal opportunity fakeness, but the women got it worse. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. It was stilettos, shiny, stretchy pants, corsets, fake nails, fake hair, fake lashes, everything fake.
Do you have any memories of certain outfits you wore from videos of the time where you're like
Yeah.
especially like, why did I wear that? Why? Or that you liked?
Yeah, mostly that it was like why, when I see those videos now, I'm just like, whoa. And I remember what a pain it was to get into those outfits, especially when you took them away from the video set and out onto the live stage in the heat and stuff. Incredible costuming challenges, you know.
Some of that stuff I did like, but I can see that if you felt like you had to dress that way,
Yeah.
as opposed to like you just want to, it's a different thing.
That's the thing that made me get uncomfortable with the era, because when we first started dressing that way and doing those songs, it was fun. It was theater, you know, and it was creative and somewhat artistic and everything. But then it wasn't long before, when you're out on stage in 100-degree heat in a corset and stilettos and all that stuff, it gets to be really challenging and uncomfortable. And then you stop liking it and thinking it's so theatrical and fun, you know?
Well, speaking of theatrical and fun, after this, I will show you. I was at a rap party for RuPaul's Drag Race, and
Yeah.
one of the drag queens sang alone, and I have the video on my phone.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you feel like what do you feel your fan base is right now? Obviously, your songs they've been on American Idol and The Voice. You've got drag queens covering them. You've got who's coming to your shows?
Well, it's amazing because there's a wide demographic coming to the shows. A lot of people between, I'd say, 45 and 60, of course. And then a strange young demographic, like super young, like their grandparents started out with us. And I think they're listening because they heard it from their grandparents or their parents, and they're looking for roots. They're looking for something real, for one thing. So wide demographic, both male and female.
I did mention American Idol, and obviously we're talking about singing and authentic singing and stuff. American Idol's coming back, so I'm just going to put it out there. Would you ever be a judge on one of those shows? Because in my opinion, not to you are the greatest female rock singer of all time, in my opinion, and not just my opinion, many people's opinions. Like, you can really sing, and you have the history and the heritage. Would you ever do anything like that? The Voice, even just like guest mentoring or anything like that?
Well, maybe mentoring, but a judge, I've got sort of a philosophic beef with judging people's singing,
Okay.
because that says that there are rules on how to do it. And maybe there are rules in voice health or something, but in terms of expression, the thing that makes people all sound like each other and be anonymous are the rules. So the minute somebody says, no, you should sound more like Adele, or you should sound more like, whoever, it kills it. It kills individuality. So I would have a problem with standing up there judging somebody's singing.
How have you protected your own voice health? Because your voice still has all its power, and there are a lot of artists who've been singing for decades that they lose it, and they lose it relatively young sometimes.
Yeah, I think it just depends on how you relate to your voice, because it's just another part of your body like any other part that is going to change with age. It's going to, if you abuse it, it's going to hurt it, If you sing, if you don't do things that are obviously hard on your voice, like smoke, drink, drugs, no sleep, that type of stuff, any part of your body's going to give out.
Yeah.
But as you age, your vocal mechanism actually changes. So that's why people start lowering their keys and everything, or they start avoiding the high notes,
Uh-huh. And you notice that when you see someone live, because when you're seeing a song that you love, you have the song in your head,
Right.
how it sounded in the recording, and when it's changed up a lot, there is a little bit of
Yeah,
disappointment.
you go, oh,
That's not how I remember it.
she didn't hit the high note, Well, yeah, and something else that is hard to maintain is on a big tour where you sing night after night. You have to find out how many nights you can sing before you need a day off.
Oh, okay.
It's really important.
How
to
many
take,
is it for you?
For me right now, I can do 3,
Okay.
but I prefer 2.
Do you have any special, I don't know, do you gargle with honey? Do you have any special teas you drink? Like, do you have any industry secrets for people who want to preserve their own pipes?
I've tried it all, but the thing that I have found that works the best is hydration. It's just drink water, just water, water, water. And tea's great. There's no magic bullet, but I take this kind of vitamin C that is buffered and lipospheric, so I take kind of mega doses.
Now, you made an interesting point about the people who come to your shows being different audiences and
Uh-huh.
stuff, and there's something I've been hearing, actually I've been hearing it since probably the 80s, is this rock is dead thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, you went on tour with, Cheap Trick and Joan Jett, and I don't think rock is dead, but we do see a little bit less of it among newer artists. Of course, Desert Trip can happen, and everybody, it sells out and everybody's excited about it, but like, then you hear about a younger festival like Coachella or whatever, that there are no rock bands playing, or you watch the Billboard Music Awards and it's like there's no rock artists on the
Yeah.
show. Like, how do you feel about the idea that rock has fallen out of fashion?
Well, rock evolved out of rebellion. And so when you turn on the Billboard Awards or something like the Grammys and there's no rock on there, that should tell you that's a good sign, because that means that rock is not welcome inside of a pop format, and that's where it belongs, is outside of a pop format.
Oh, okay.
It's a little rebellious, little bitter pill for the pop world to swallow. It's supposed to be anti.
It's
It's
an
supposed to
interesting
be
point.
small and vital and hot-blooded.
But there have been moments in pop culture where rock was the 60s, the 70s, a bit
Yeah.
of the 80s. The 90s for sure. That was probably the last time where it was like, it was Nirvana. It was all these bands from where you're from
Right,
the
yeah.
Northwest. And Nirvana was a pop band in the sense that they were
Yeah.
popular.
You're absolutely right, but those are moments, those are really short, small, potent moments. Most of the time, if there's a band like Nirvana or The Who or The Clash or, they will come and they'll have a hit or two, and then everybody else will jump on their bandwagon
Yeah.
and pollute the purity of it, and it'll go. Next thing you know, it's all pop again,
Yeah.
with a rock edge,
Do you think we'll have another moment of like that again? Do you see that, like, where, however temporary it is, that rock is the thing, the bandwagon of choice?
Sure, it'll just be different, it'll be about some different edgy thing, and it'll be in rebellion. That's how you know it's really rock.
Is there any? It doesn't have to necessarily be rock, but what newer artists are you into that you feel are doing something interesting?
Yeah, it's hard for me with all my history of especially hearing people that sound like individuals to wade through all the auto-tune and all that kind of stuff and like people who are coming up. I find a lot of it, I don't mean to sound like an old person complaining, but it's just, I think Muse is my favorite band. They're not super young, but I think they stand out as being truly brilliant and the real thing, way on a level of realism and, musical brilliance that you don't see in rock that often. They're my favorite.
I do love them. I'm glad you said
Yeah.
them. You mentioned the auto-tune thing and stuff. I kind of feel like maybe there's been a renewed appreciation for real singing lately. I mean, obviously Adele's probably the most obvious example, but Sam Smith came out. Lady Gaga can really sing. Obviously, we have lots of auto-tune people on the charts still, and probably always will. But do you feel there's been, and I actually would say shows like The Voice and American Idol have contributed to that a little bit, because I always thought it was kind of interesting that those shows are about critiquing
Yeah.
vocal technique when the average pop fan at home probably doesn't pay attention to that stuff.
Yeah, I would say that they pay attention. The average listener probably pays more attention to the attitude and maybe the words and the groove,
But-
of the song.
But do you think with people like the ones I mentioned that maybe there's been more of an appreciation in the mainstream for people who really can sing and really, like Beyonce is another example, like really can do it live?
Right, yeah. I do think there is. There's more of an appreciation, especially since with the advent of Adele, I think she's the real thing, and I think that people look at her and they listen to her and they go, yeah, that's us, you know? She doesn't come off with sort of an elitist, snooty industry air at all. She seems like a real salty, ballsy person, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you were talking about like with what women have to do to be pop stars now. They have to be able to dance. They have to look a certain way. It's very hard to have a career that is as long as, say, yours, if that's all you can do. Because if you are about like dancing and being sexy and hot pants or whatever, can you do that when you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s,
Yeah.
as opposed to, you know, someone like Adele or someone like yourself or someone, I would even say like Lady Gaga, who can just sit at a piano, who can have a longer career. I don't know how you feel about like, you know, the idea of longevity and how you can maintain longevity by not being so appearance driven or
Yeah, or
gimmick
just
driven.
by not jumping on trends. I think that's what will be a suicide for a long career, is if you start going, well, hey, you know, like I'm going to wear a mini skirt this year, you know, that means I have to get leg implants to make them look good enough, you know. I mean, my point is when you
Is
start.
that a thing?
Yeah. Really.
Okay.
Then you're not going to, there's nothing real to hang on to for a long time.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, you didn't jump on trends, but we were talking about the 80s thing.
Yeah.
How were you able to get past, you know, you sort of Heart got sort of lumped into a pop metal thing that was going on.
Oh, yeah.
And you had the fashions we talked about and the MTV thing, but you outlasted that. How were you able to transcend that period of time?
Well, Heart's always been sort of like a cockroach, you know. I mean, you can set off a bomb and it'll still be alive underneath. But I think that we just, in Heart, we just kept showing up and we just took off the armor and just were ourselves. Take it or leave it. And when you come down to it, that's about the only thing that lasts, really.
Well, I have to ask, because I know your fans who are watching us want to know, what is the future for Heart? Because I know we don't have to necessarily go into it now, but there's been some issues. You talked about it pretty frankly in Rolling Stone. And it seems like the band is on hiatus. I don't
Yeah.
know how indefinite the hiatus is, but people, of course, would be sad if Heart were to never perform again or tour again or record again.
Yeah, well, we have no plans right now with Heart. We're on creative walkabout, you know. We're both doing solo things this year. I'm going to be touring until at least the end of October with my own thing. And we need to let it breathe. We haven't made any plans one way or the other. So we've been sort of giving everything to the band since we were in our early 20s. That's been the main focus of our lives. This is the first time we've decided to actually look away from it for a couple of minutes and have a life with our families and our, you know, go out in nature and camp and actually do things that other people do. So, yeah, I think it's been really fulfilling so far to take a breath. And I think that when and if Heart comes back together in whatever form it comes back together in, it'll be fresher. It's never going to be like it was before.
Really? Why do you say that?
Because we're moving on. Creatively, we're both in our 60s, you know. I mean, we've earned the right to take this band, you know, I've earned the right to take Heart wherever I think I should take it. And,
Well, what are your, beside the fact that you're a band, obviously you and Nancy are family.
Yes.
What are your relations right now? Because, you know, I've, you know, heard how it was strained for a while. Like, are you guys talking? Are you close? Are you working through your issues? Or?
yeah, I think that the best thing Nancy and I are doing right now is we're working on our friendship and on our sisterhood. The band that's something else again. I mean, that'll come and go and evolve and shape, but we'll be sisters long after everything else is gone. So we're working on our own relationship right now.
How are you doing that? Are you just like going to counseling, or is it more just like you're just talking and just taking...
Talking, letting water run under the bridge, just cool down, everybody chill, you know?
Do you ever miss her when you're touring, especially when you're doing, you know, the heart songs, I would say?
No,
Touring solo.
I feel that she's doing what she wants to do, and I do what I want to do, and we're both individuals with each other and without each other. So that's a really cool thing.
Did you sometimes feel that wasn't the case because you were always the Wilson sister?
Yeah, we were always joined at the hip, and you know.
How is this family drama, or whatever you want to call it, is that inspiring you at all in your art, like lyrically or anything like that, with your original material that you're working on?
Sure, yeah. It's just, it's especially inspiring me to feel like what's important, you know?
And
What do you get all freaked out about? What don't you? What do you let go? And how do you take a breath and look at life in a realistic way? Still see its beauty, but understand the lumps and bumps, you know?
So what is important to you? What are your priorities these days?
What's important to me is love, especially that. What's important to me is growing and evolving. But ultimately, what's important to me is being real and being authentic. I've spent enough time in my life holding poses, playing roles, you know,
What do you mean by
and
that?
I can be good at it. You know, as a singer, you go out there and you're a storyteller, and you put something across, and then maybe you do it over and over and over and over and over and over, you know. I think coming up with new songs that are real and relevant to this moment is what I'm talking about, you know. Carving new ground always.
Great. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming here.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your candor. It was a great talk, and I'm looking forward to seeing you perform.
Thanks.
Thanks.
You got a kitchen that's brand new, and you'd like to keep it that way too. You want to set out on your own so you can teach yoga and just say on. You're saving up for your family, 'cause the two of you are about to be three. A little help can go a long way in your life, and Nationwide is on your side.
I never thought I would actually make it. Nobody really thinks that until it happens. It seems like a dream. When I was a kid, rockers were like untouchable gods up in the heavens, like Robert Plant.